Today, we are unlocking one of the most powerful tools in any language, the ability to talk about the past. We're going to master the simple past tense. Think of it as the key you need to unlock stories about history, your own memories, and those incredible life journeys.
You know, every single person has a story, right? A kind of biography. It's just a series of moments, achievements, and events that all happened in the past and shaped who they are. But how do we actually share those stories?
To tell these stories, we have to be able to travel back in time with our language. And in English, there's a specific, really essential grammar tense that's designed to do exactly that.
So, here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll kick things off with why the past tense is so crucial. Then, we'll break down its two main structures. So, describing states versus actions, we'll get into the rules for regular and irregular verbs, learn how to ask questions and make negatives, and then, the fun part, we'll apply everything to build a life story from scratch.
All right, let's start at the very beginning. Why do we even need a whole separate tense just for the past? Let's really get to the core of what this simple past is all about.
So, here's the crucial point. We use the simple past when an action is completely, 100% over and done with. It started in the past and it ended in the past. It has zero connection to what's happening right now. Okay, now when we talk about the past, we basically follow one of two main paths. It really all just depends on whether you're describing a state of being or a specific action.
Think of it like this. You can either talk about how things were, their condition, their state of existence, or you can talk about what things did, the actions they actually performed. Two different jobs, two different structures.
For states of being, it's pretty straightforward. The verb to be, am, is, and are in the present. It just changes into two forms for the past, was and were. So for example, instead of saying, I am overweight today, if you're talking about the past, you just say, I was overweight. Easy enough, right?
Okay, let's move on from describing states of being to talking about actual, concrete actions. This is where the real action verbs come out to play.
Now, the good news here is that most verbs in the English language are what we call regular, which means they're predictable. They follow a really clear, consistent pattern to show that an action happened in the past.
You can see that pattern pretty clearly right here. Love already ends in an E, so we just add a D to get loved. Play gets ED to become played. And with study, we drop that Y and add IED to get studied. Simple, predictable rules. Love that.
But then we have the rebels of the verb world, the irregulars. These guys do not follow the ED rule at all. They pretty much play by their own rules, and their past forms, well, you just have to learn them.
Some of these irregular verbs transform completely. For example, to talk about go in the past, you don't say good, you say went. It's a totally different word.
And then some irregulars are even trickier. They don't look like they change at all. The spelling of read, for instance, stays exactly the same, but the pronunciation changes from read in the present to read in the past. It's kind of like a little trap for your ears.
So once you know the past form of the verb, building a positive sentence is super easy. Doesn't matter if it's a regular verb like played or an irregular one like went, you just drop it right into the sentence after the subject.
Okay, so positive sentences are pretty straightforward. But what happens when we need to say something didn't happen, or we want to ask a question about the past?
Luckily for all action verbs, there is one powerful, magic little word that simplifies everything. And that word is did.
And here you can see that rule in action. When you use didn't for a negative sentence or did to start a question, something kind of magical happens. The main verb doesn't need to be in the past tense anymore. It just goes right back to its original base form. See how walked just becomes walk? Did does all the heavy lifting for you.
And the best part? This structure works for all action verbs, regular or irregular. You don't ask, went you? No way. You ask, did you go? Did is like the universal key for asking about any past action.
All right, we now have all the tools we need. We know about states with was and were, and we know about actions with regular and irregular verbs. So let's go back to our original mission, telling a life story.
Look at this. We can build a simple biography, a timeline of key events, by just combining everything we've learned. She was born uses that state verb. Then we have a series of completed actions. She graduated, she received an award, and she moved. A story is starting to form.
And we can get even more detailed. We can zoom right in on one of those moments on the timeline. We don't just have to say what year something happened. We can pinpoint the exact time it happened.
Words that signal time, like yesterday, last year, or in 1992, they're like the signposts on your story's path. They guide your listener from one event to the next and give the narrative a really clear chronological order. They are absolutely essential for good storytelling. So just remember this. The simple past tense isn't just a boring set of grammar rules to memorize. It is your key to unlocking the past. It lets you explore history, share your memories, and tell the incredible stories of the people and events that came before us. You've got the tools. So now the only real question is, whose story are you going to tell first?